Well, Christopher Smith and Jalen Carter were named Associated Press First Team All-Americans today, and I'm going to talk a lot about Chris Smith. Everyone knows, and if you don't, how good Jalen Carter is, I don't know what to tell you after a while. Hey, make sure you're picking up Dogstruction. You can order it down below in the link, or if you're in the Athens area, go to Red Zone. They've got about 20 of them, and I'm going to get them some more so that we don't run out. But Clayton Street downtown in Athens, they got a slew of holiday Christmas gifts. Get you ready for the Peach Bowl. That's where I would go if I'm in. If you're in Gwinnett, it's worth going up there for it. Okay, Cobb, maybe you call them. But look, Chris Smith, Matt DeBerry, and I went to go see Chris Smith and Jermaine Burton at Hateville Charter, and this was probably 15 or 16, maybe 17, somewhere in that ballpark. So some time ago, and Chris has had a career at Georgia, the likes of which, I mean, obviously he's a first team All American. I mean, enough said. But he gets, we don't think about Christopher Smith. You think about this play, right? But let me go to a different book. Think about all of these, think about all of these plays that Christopher Smith made. I mean, Georgia's dominance over Clemson a season ago, there's an outstanding picture of Chris, but that was after he made this play right here. Now that changed that game. I mean, that was the margin by which Georgia won that game. I don't have it immediately right here, but there's an image of Chris that we've got on the site from his play a week ago against LSU. People just are not going to forget these moments. And I talked about it when I talked about the images from the game, that Chris sort of checked with the official and took it from there. And he sort of, I don't know why LSU didn't run to that ball to kill the ball down, but they didn't. And it was really bad football from LSU. It was really just superb thinking and play from Christopher Smith. And in his time at Georgia, you know, he's just been the example of how you do it, okay? And I'm not just saying exclusively at Georgia. When he got there, it looked like, it might not work. He might not be a guy that, it looked like he might be a guy that would be kind of left behind. No. When he, what we don't see, obviously, because Kirby won't let us in practices anymore, which is, silly. But what we don't see behind the scenes is that guys continue to work, and we can only know how good they are when a moment arrives. And you're not going to knock out Lewis Cine or Richard LeCount. That's not going to happen. But Christopher Smith, when he got his chance and Richard got hurt in that Florida game, or before the Florida game, I think it was in 2020, he has played really well ever since. And just dealing with him, the moments that I have, it's not surprising. He's one of the actual adults that's on this team. Well, that sounds harsh, but what I mean is he's a grown up. He does what you have to do to get the job done. And he continues to make big plays all the time. I failed to mention the Oregon game where he had an interception. He had an interception against LSU. He had a block punt, a block kickoff return, a blocked field goal a return for a touchdown. I mean, this guy consistently makes plays. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about Keeley, right? This is the image people will remember for a long time. You know who else had an interception in this game, if I'm not mistaken? Christopher Smith. I mean, one thing that Stetson said after the LSU game, because it was him and Chris that were up there with Kirby. And Kirby should understand this, and I think he does. I mean, Kirby played when he was young, but he didn't become a starter until later in his career. He was not a guy that just, he was a late guy that they typically would not have taken. It just sort of turned out that way. Chris was not quite like that, but Kirby was not. I don't think I need to explain this. Kirby was not a four-star player. Chris Smith was not a five-star player, and he is a five-star player on a team with five stars, and yet he was not that when he came out. So it's him and Kirby and Stetson. So you've got the two guys who have proven that opportunity only matters when you take advantage of it. In a way, Stetson's gotten more opportunities than Christopher has, but the sort of second time Stetson got that chance, he never let it go. For Christopher Smith, once he got a hold of it, he wasn't letting go. Some of that was, recruit. I mean, some of that was the situation they were in, but I mean, he played really well at the end of 20. And then the way that he started 21 off with that play against Clemson, later, as the year went on, the guy seemed to just consistently make plays, just like making plays, right? Um, not a guy that, like people talk about players all the time. Christopher Smith's not one of the first guys you think about on this defense, but I'm just telling you, he is one of the most consistent players at Georgia. So in 20, he played in 5 games in 18, 14 games in 19. In 20, he started the last 5 games of the season. He played in all 10. Okay, he had 28 stops, 4 quarterback pressures, had a great game against South Carolina, a pretty good game against State, and then he had 3 tackles and a breakup against Cincinnati. In 21, he started 11 out of the 12 games during the regular season. He played every defensive snap against Clemson, Tennessee, and Alabama. This is what he did in the national championship game. He had a career best 7 tackles, 2 breakups, a quarterback pressure, which it seems like the people in the stands had a quarterback pressure that night, an interception, and he had one of the blocks on this play for Keeley. Okay, the guy is everywhere. When you need a play, Christopher Smith is your guy. Check him out right there. There's William Poole, who is also a hateful charter guy. This is that's just a great image. But, you know, the 74-yard touchdown against Clemson was a huge deal. A huge deal. He also had an interception against Vanderbilt that day up there when I knew for sure that they could win the national championship. And then this year, Bronco Nagurski Award finalist, AP first team for the coaches as well. 13 game starter, 50 tackles, which is 4th best in the team, 5 for a loss, a sack, 3 interceptions, which is the most on the team, 5 breakups, a fumble recovery, and then a 96-yard touchdown return of a blocked field goal. He had 7 tackles, a 13-yard sack against the Gators, 7 stops against Kentucky. The interception, I think it was in the 4th quarter. The guy is just exceptional, and we don't talk about Christopher Smith. We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Christopher Smith. And I'm just saying, my admiration for guys who come in and work. Like, he has worked himself into an NFL draft pick. We can't say that about Jalen Carter because he came in as an NFL draft pick. I don't know what he's been doing. It's not been hanging out, though. I mean, he's making plays too, no question. But it's more, I think, to me, what you saw on the podium after the LSU game was what Georgia really is trying to be, which is guys that work. I mean, I know Kirby works. I mean, I think he personally sometimes think he works too much, and I worry about his health. But in terms of the stress level and so forth, but you're not gonna get where you need to go or want to go playing in this program without having the same mindset and attacking attitude that Chris has had in his time, that Stetson has had in his time, that Ladd McConkey. I mean, those guys are not the only one. Brinson, Stackhouse, you know, Truss, McClendon. These guys were top 300 players. They were not top 100 players. Okay, I know they weren't because I have the documentation here. Edwards, the team, Kyrus Jackson for sure. AD Mitchell. There are plenty of players. Brock Bowers was not a top 100 guy. Consensus, I don't think, but whatever. I'm sure someone will correct me and take advantage of the fact that I could possibly be wrong. But my point is that if you don't do the little stuff every single day at Georgia or in business or at home with your kids, it will not add up to success. And Christopher Smith has done it time and time and time again. It's not a mistake that he makes big plays in big moments.